All right, this video is about how to automate your client onboarding using Make and all of the different tools that you might need to set up and configure for each new client. We're going to walk through this pretty quickly. I might do a future video about how to actually build this, but I'm going to walk through each step. And if you know how to use Make, you should be able to get this going pretty quickly. It's designed as a high-level overview of the process here. So generally, the way that this is laid out is it obviously moves from left to right. Each one of these branches coming off this router here is dedicated to setting up a specific set of tools. So on the top, we have Google Drive, Google Sheets, anything Google related. Here we have front and adding different tags and IDs and things related to that tool. Here we have ClickUp, Slack, QuickBooks, Xano, which is our master database, some smart lead stuff, some domain registration stuff, generating some documents that we send to our clients, and then finally some Clay stuff, and then a custom workflow that will be the topic of another video, but essentially goes in and scrapes a client's website to generate cold email angles. So first things first, as part of our sales process, we track obviously when contracts get signed or docu-signed, and that triggers an automation to add a new client record in Airtable. We track everything in Airtable. That's the single source of truth for us. We're watching for new clients that get added there. This automation will run every 15 minutes or so and just look for new clients as they get popped into our fulfillment workflow. We're going to grab all that client information, and we're going to filter to make sure that we found that client, just to make sure there's no bugs, and that their Google Drive master folder ID does not exist. You could replace this field in Airtable with something that just indicates whether or not a client has gone through this onboarding setup process. This filter is just designed to eliminate redundancies or bugs if you have to re-add that client as a new client record. You don't want to trigger this workflow over and over and over again. So that filter is just designed to prevent duplication here. First things first, we're going to create that client folder in Google Drive, and we're going to add that campaign folder ID onto the client record. Then we're going to route it down this first path and do basically all of the Google Drive setup process. So we're going to set up the campaigns. We're going to set up different folders for each area of our business. So we mostly it's campaigns related because we run a cold email agency. We have done data projects in the past, so we just go ahead and create all these folders. Reporting, we go ahead and create a dashboard from a Google Sheet template. If you don't use Google Sheets for reporting, that's totally fine, but we have a pretty extensive automation system built out to populate these Google Sheets. And then we're going to go ahead and update that campaign start date in that Google Sheet reporting dashboard. We set up an area for contracts and invoices so that the client always has access to all the latest invoicing and financial related information about the engagement. We're going to set up some folders related to client assets to hold all of their sales sheets, documentation, persona research, etc. that they're providing to us. Messaging, similar kind of folder. Also like sales collateral or videos or anything that the client can use in a cold email will go into those folders. Email assets, that's stuff that we set up related to our email accounts and infrastructure and things. Exclusion lists, so obviously a really big one for cold email agencies. We're also creating that exclusion list spreadsheet from a template. So you really want to handhold the client as much as possible, get them to fill this out in the format that you need to upload it into Smartlead or Instantly or whatever email tool that you use. But having that populate from a template really helps keep them focused and make it so that they don't screw it up. It's obviously a very important step. We're going to go ahead and add all those folder IDs for all of these things that we created. We're going to add that onto the client record so that in the future we can automate moving files around or adding new invoices or new campaigns or new lists or new messaging, whatever you need to add. Once you have those Google file IDs, then you can just automatically drop it in there. And then we have a couple of different options here for sending all of these onboarding workflows. So once the client signs, they get their Google Drive information set up, and then you can actually send them a drafted onboarding email that contains the Google links and everything that they need to get set up here. You can do that through Gmail in Make, or you can enroll them in a third-party email marketing tool, like a transactional email tool. We use InCharge in some cases, but I just threw both options there to show you how to set that up. Next up, we use Front app. We're probably going to phase this out soon due to some of the changes that Front has had on the cold email side. If you run a cold email agency that uses Front, you know what I'm talking about. But we're creating the team email inbox, creating company-related tags, creating different reply classification tags. So is the lead interested now? Are they interested in, or are they needs more info? Is it bad timing, etc.? We're adding those tags into our database and creating, different tags, tag IDs, and storing that information so that when we do get leads and they do have a response, we can tag them appropriately. We know what those tag IDs are in Front. Next up is ClickUp. So we're going to add them into a client dashboard, update the financial related information about the engagement. If you do retainers, if you do performance-based, you can add that all in ClickUp and store it there. We're going to go ahead and create a new client folder from ClickUp and add that ClickUp folder ID again back onto the client record in Airtable. It's really, really important to store all of those folder IDs and all of those location IDs across all of the different tools that you use, because it allows you further down the road to automate the communication and the interactivity between those different tools. So definitely store everything. We use, again, Airtable as our master record database. We have a whole command center built out in there, which I'll do a video on, but it's really important to track all of those folder IDs. And that's what we're doing here in this last part of this ClickUp workflow. We're going ahead and getting that new client folder, iterating through all the different lists that we have there. And then, we have a couple of different sections. So account management, campaigns, list building, copywriting, onboarding, and infrastructure. We're adding the list IDs for all of those so that we can quickly navigate and create new tasks in those specific areas through some automations down the road. Next up, we use Slack to communicate. So we're creating that client channel. We're inviting all of the team members from their team and our team into that Slack channel, and we're updating the Slack channel ID on the client record again. Here's where we add the invoicing. So we were on QuickBooks for a long time. I wish we had set up on Stripe, but c'est la vie. So we're moving over to Stripe, but you can do this in the same way using Stripe's Make integration or their raw API. Regardless, you're setting up a QuickBooks customer and adding the QuickBooks ID to the client record. In this branch here, we're adding that client in our master database tool. This is a tool called Xano. It's a really, really awesome tool. If you like Airtable and you're a little bit technical and you just wish that Airtable had more space and more flexibility and more power, take a look at Xano. We use it to hold millions of records as a master database and track what leads we've reached out to globally across all of our campaigns, and a deduplication mechanism. And it's just a very, very good tool. So we do some client setup there in Xano. Of course, we're adding that Xano ID for all these things back into Airtable. Here we're adding the client to SmartLead. If you use Instantly, I'm sure they have a mechanism to do this as well, but we use SmartLead, so we're setting that up in SmartLead and adding that SmartLead client ID back to the client record so that when we create campaigns automatically, of course, through API, we can associate those new campaigns with a specific client inside of the SmartLead UI. Very useful. So down here, this is a cold email specific thing. We're creating different domain variations. Every time that we onboard a client, we're setting up and purchasing new domains for them. We need to generate permutations of their domain name so that the account managers can go in and just find the ones that make sense and then purchase them. So we're permutating and creating those variations here and adding them to Airtable, and then using a Pipedream integration here to send them as an actionable Slack button directly into Slack saying, hey, here are the 10 domains that we suggest. Do you want to purchase those domains? And that's a very quick way to spin up a client and just engage all the DNS setup, all the technical workflows that follow client onboarding and picking a domain. We also have some stuff here that's specific probably to us, where we auto create a document that we send to the client that tells them how to whitelist the domains. So again, very specific to cold email. We have some Clay stuff here as well. And then this one I love. We have an automation that goes in and scrapes the entire client website, including all their videos, LinkedIn, any URLs or PDFs that they have embedded on the site. And it creates a really strong corpus of information that you can use and hand off to your copywriting team to help them in their copywriting process. And obviously we're automating that as well. So that'll be a later video, but I hope that was helpful. We use this workflow every time we set up a new client. It saved dozens and dozens and dozens of hours, and it just eliminates this entire section of your project management system, which has to do with onboarding and making sure that your team is doing all of these things correctly and they're tracking all these IDs. It lays a really good foundation for automating the client account in the future, automating project management tasks, putting information and documents and CSVs and any kind of thing, putting it in the right place and making sure that everyone has access to it and that the client is really set up for success at a fundamental technical level. So hope that was useful. Probably will do a build video on this at some point, but this is one of the first YouTube videos that we're doing. So I'm trying to figure out what people want to see and what makes the most sense. So let me know if this was helpful or if there's any questions that you have about how to set up any of this. This is oriented around a cold email agency, but you can apply this same methodology and this same process using the same tools to really any marketing agency or service business or any company that does any kind of white glove onboarding where you're setting up an account or a client across different tools, and there's a lot of moving pieces. So hopefully this was useful. Again, let me know what you want to see in the comments, and I'm happy to share a full build of this or any other topics that you want to take a look at. Thanks.